أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على ما لا نبي بعده سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربي لا تؤاخذني مما يقولون واغفر لي ما لا يعلمون وجعلني خيرا مما يظنون. Amma ba'd. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome one more time to the House of Dua. Welcome to the channel from which you learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about His creation, about His message, about His messenger, and of course, about His chosen religion known as Al-Islam. And welcome to the channel from which you learn how to succeed in the world we live today and how to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for even greater success on the day of accountability. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, today we are coming to you with a note of warning. A note of warning for all of us. Indeed, a great advice. And that is that all of us need to be careful about our leaders and the instructions they give to us, which we obey from time to time. We seriously need to take a deep breath to determine which leader is worthy of our obedience, of our followership. Who is that leader that seriously qualifies to be a leader that we all need to take instructions from for our day-to-day living? This has become pertinent because of what is happening in today's world. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, look around yourself and beyond yourself. You see tribulations and difficulties and all kinds of problems across the world, largely because of bad leadership. People we have elected into positions or selected into positions and expect that they will guide us to doing that which is right, but they are ending up leading bad examples, giving bad examples to their followers. The world we live today is threatened by one kind of crisis or the other. Wars that know no limit. Even in countries where there are no wars, we have seen policies of the leaders in such countries weigh heavily on their citizens, as a result of which people are struggling. They are sad and confused, to say the least. And dear brothers, my dear sisters, it has come to the time, therefore, for us to sound this note of warning to all of us. Be careful who you listen to. Be careful who you obey, for your leader could make or break you. It could create a problem from which you will not recover. Therefore, pay attention. Make life simple for yourself. There are several people who parade themselves in the world we live now in the name of leaders. Some wearing suits of many colors. Some wearing flowing gowns. Some wearing the attires of their countries, invariably trying to tell the people, you know what, I'm part of you, I'm a nationalist. When in fact, they are all the same. Today we want to take an excursion into the world and try to identify that good leader. Before we do that, let's remember that as Muslims, we are commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to obey our leaders to the extent that the instructions they give to us do not contradict the commandments of Allah as stated in the Quran and as exemplified by Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam in the Hadith. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared in Surah An-Nisa, Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasulah wa ulul amri minkum. فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. Obey Allah's commandments and follow the example of His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And also obey those who are in authority over you, to the extent that what they do or request you to do is in harmony with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. Otherwise, if there are areas of disagreement between you and them, then you have to uphold what Allah has commanded. You have to bring the matter for determination before Allah. In other words, you have to go by Allah's commandment. And dear brothers, my dear sisters, it is an honor for us to be good followers to our leaders. But when those leaders turn themselves into problems of the society, we are also permitted to resist them, and if possible, to remove them from office, to stop them from oppressing us. We are not expected to fold our hands or to follow them blindly to the detriment of our own lives. Even when it comes to our individual homes, in which our parents occupy the position of leadership, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, obey your parents, honor your parents, respect them, to the extent that they don't order you to do that which is prohibited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only condition under which children are permitted to disagree with their parents is when those parents want to lead them to do that for which they have no knowledge, for which there is no commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking them to do it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا وَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيَّ ثُمَّ إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ فَأُنَبِّئُكُم بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. We have ordered man to obey his parents, to honor their parents, to the extent that what the parents ask them to do is in consonance with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks them to do. Otherwise, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. When your parents put pressure on you to do that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you not to do, that for which you have no knowledge, you are permitted to politely disagree with them and to restrain yourself from following them. After all of you, including your parents, are going back to Allah for accountability, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you your records. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, take a look at the world around you and beyond you. Take an excursion into the world with a flashlight looking for a good leader. One of the most difficult things to find in today's world is a good leader. By a good leader, I mean somebody who is occupying a position of authority, and in that position, he puts others before himself. He serves others before himself. He sees his job as a calling, as a position of honor to serve the society. He is a person who says, when they are okay, that's when I'm okay. He's a person who humbles himself before the people. Not a leader who brandishes himself or herself around, lording over his people, denying them their rights, and when they complain, oppressing them with the weapons of mass destruction. Not a leader who turns the purse of the state, the economy of the state, into his personal property. Not a leader who sits tight in power in perpetuity, not willing to leave the office because he knows he has a skeleton in the cupboard. Not a leader who will not accept criticism from his subjects. If they do, we throw them into jail on fictitious accusations. Not a leader who will award contracts for projects in the country to himself. He executes the contract. He authorizes the payment. He makes sure the money goes to the bank. And in some cases, he uses relations' names as proxies to siphon the money of the people away so that the people will not know. That's not the kind of leader we are talking about. Neither is it a kind of leader that does not care about the souls of innocent people, even when there is genuine reason to fight. Leaders who use weapons of mass destruction to destroy people, children, elderly people, pregnant women, those who are already sick in the hospital, without regard to life. That's not the kind of leader we are looking for. We can come up with a long list of parameters of what makes a good leader, but you cannot find that kind of leader in today's world. Let's go to the Western world, for example, and identify some of those who are leading and tell yourself whether you consider them to be good leaders. Consider President Biden of the United States of America, for example, President Scholz of Germany, Prime Minister Sunak of England, or even the King of England himself. Consider Emmanuel Macron of France. Consider Sanchez of Spain. What about Trudeau of Canada? These are the people who pride themselves as leaders of the G7 nations of the world. And they actually claim that they are good leaders. Think about it. In comparison with some, they may claim to be so. Let's go to the Far East. President Putin of Russia. Is that your good leader? Or Lukashenko of Belarus. Is that your good leader? Or the little rocket man of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. Is that the person you call your good leader? Let's come down to the Middle East. Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. Is that a good leader? Sisi of Egypt. MBS of Saudi Arabia. Hussein of Jordan. What about President Erdogan of Turkey? What about President Modi of India? Those are your good leaders? Let's come back to Africa. Said of Tunisia. Yoweri Museveni of Uganda. Paul Biya of Cameroon. Macky Sall of Senegal. What about Tinubu of Nigeria? What about Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa? Or Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe? Those are the ones you call your good leaders? Come on, man. These are people we know. Let's come back to South America. Manuel Lopez Obrador of Mexico, or Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela, or Luis Inácio da Silva of Brazil. Those are your good leaders? Frankly speaking, it's relative. Depends on how you look at them. But in totality, in terms of the goodness they bring to society, they are down below there. We are talking of leaders who are God-fearing, who see their citizens as their own boss. Leaders who believe that it is the well-being of the citizens that is their well-being, who work hard every day to bring the greater good to the greater majority of the people. Those are the good leaders. Leaders who do not rush to war, to kill people. Those are the good leaders we are looking at. Where can you find them in today's world? The entire world of today is replete with crises and crises arising from bad leadership. Allah says, Zohar al-Fasa adu fil-barri wal-bahr bima kasabati aydinas. You see, the land is filled up with evil because of the hands of man. The essence of choosing leaders is informed by the fact that all of us cannot be in charge of the steering, driving the vehicle of the state. So we select some people to represent us. And when they are looking for those positions, they come around begging the followers. But at the end of the day, they turn their back. They become the boss. And when you speak to them in the right way to correct them, you become their enemy. This is the problem we're having in today's world, my dear brothers, my dear sisters. The time has come, therefore, to ask ourselves, who is the leader we are going to obey? Who is that leader that is working for the well-being of the world? They have rendered the United Nations ineffective because of their own selfish pursuit. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, more often than not, when we are talking of leaders, we focus on this upper echelon of the society that I'm mentioning right now. But do you know that that's not all? The problem also concerns you and concerns me. You are a leader, I am a leader. To what extent are people living under us or receiving instruction from us? To what extent do they feel comfortable with our performances at home, outside, and in the public spaces? To what extent? We all need to engage in soul searching when it comes to the issue of leadership. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in his beautiful hadith says, "Kuluku ra'in wa kuluk mas'ul an ra'iyati." Each and every one of you is a leader, and each and every one of you will be held accountable for how he leads his subject. And he went on to say, the man is the leader of his home as the head of the household. The wife is a leader over the property of her husband. And a housemaid or slave is a leader over the property of his or her master. So none of us can actually say, you know what, it is they, not me. No, all of us have to concern ourselves with this issue of whether or not we are representing good leadership in the world we live. But the problem posed by bad leaders in the society did not start today. They have been in the forefront, the vanguard of opposition to goodness. Are you aware of that? Go to the Quran. Go to Surah Al-Araf and several other surahs of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of his love for mankind, to guide us to the straight path, sent messengers after messengers. But who were the enemies and opponents of these messengers? The leaders of the time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called them Al-Mala'u Ladhina Astakbaru, the chiefs, the leaders, the celebrities of the time, the arrogant people. These were the ones who were opposed to the messengers sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide mankind. They were the causes of the problems and the difficulties of their time. Qawmu Noah, Qawmu Hud, Qawmu Salih, Qawmu Lut, Qawmu Fir'aun, Ashabul Aikah. These are generations destroyed by Allah because the leaders misled their people, and their people were destroyed along with them because they failed to correct their leaders. And the leaders of today are not different. It's our responsibility to hold our leaders' feet to fire, to correct them, not to shy away from it. Because if you keep quiet, their activities and evil doings will destroy you. That's why all of us need to speak up. And we need to go out there and resist or protest against them and take action to change them using all the available means at our disposal, provided they are lawful. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, it's important for us to know that many of the problems that are going on in today's world, as I've stated, are arising from the bad choices that the leaders are making. Some have dragged their citizens into endless wars. Some have come up with policies, even though there are no wars. Such policies are creating austerity in the life of people they are leading, bearing on them every day, under pressure as a result of the policies of their leaders. On the other hand, these leaders separate themselves from the sufferings of the people, protect their children against the sufferings of the people. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, it's important for you to caution yourself when it comes to obeying people or following them. Many of us foolishly follow these leaders, even when they know that what they are being called upon to do is wrong. We keep clapping hands for them, praise-singing them, and therefore they think that what they are doing is right. We too have to share a blame, the followers, in the activities of our leaders. It's important for us to take note of this. Let's take an example. Recently, an election was conducted in the United States of America. Somebody won, the other person lost. But the loser refused to accept the defeat, continued to spread big lie that the election was not free and fair. Meanwhile, there are those who are clapping hands for him, who have made him like a semi-god. Whatever he tells them, they follow. Go and destroy the capital, they go. Today, many of them are suffering in jail, while the leader they are fighting for is gallivanting the whole world, enjoying himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us that kind of situation in the Quran for us to learn lesson that on the day of accountability, those who foolishly follow their leaders and at the end of the day find themselves on the wrong side of Allah's law, when they are in hellfire, they will be blaming those who misled them. They will tell them, you led us into this. And guess what? Those who claim to be leaders of their time, who actually misled them, will tell them in return that they were not responsible for their fate. Your leader will deny you if you follow your leader to do that which is wrong. You better take note of that right now and caution yourself. When somebody calls you out to do something that you're not sure of, restrain yourself rather than following people foolishly in order to please them. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, your leaders will deny you. Do you know the one who will not deny you? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's always there for you. Leaders come, leaders go, but Allah remains. Kullu man alayha fan wa yabqa wajhu rabbika zul jalali wal ikram. Everything will pass away, but the face of Allah will remain. He's the only one that will remain. He's the one that will not disappoint you. Therefore, stay close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Find out whether what the leader is asking you to do is in consonance with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded. Otherwise, restrain yourself and put your trust in Allah. Without your leader, you will survive. Allah did not bring you to this world for you to survive based on the whims and caprices of your leaders. No. You will survive without your leaders. Therefore, let's be careful on whom we take as our leaders, who we listen to, whom we obey. At the very minimum, if you cannot do anything, sit in your home. That alone is a sign of protest. Tell them, I dissociate myself. I fear the punishment that is coming. And dear brothers, my dear sisters, it's a word of advice, a note of warning. Those who have entrusted our life to and call them our leaders are making things much more complicated for us in this world. Take a look at the crisis points all over the world. Consider, for example, Ukraine and Russia. The citizens of Ukraine love Russians. The same thing with Palestinians. They love the Jews of Israel. They are ready to live together and share food and share meal and worship together. But guess what? It is their leaders that are playing politics with them, turning one against the other. And that is the reality. That is how Pharaoh was able to oppress Beni Israel in Egypt in his time, setting one group against the other. It's time for us to identify this and to reject those leaders who want to cause confusion in the society. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make life easy for all of us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us leaders that we truly know the value of leadership. Leaders who are God-fearing, who know that the well-being of the citizens is more important than his own personal well-being. Rabbana taqabbal innaka anta samiul alim wa tub alayna ya maulana innaka antal ghafurur karim. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanaka allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.